Alright, today I've got for you a translation into English and a performance of Suki Suki Daisuki, the Jun Togawa song. I love you, really love you. And then I'll do a background of the song, the meaning, and the context. I hope you like it. If you're into Japanese culture, language, music, please subscribe, and let's get into it. So Jun Togawa was once asked in an interview, are you an idol or are you an artist? And she replied, well, would it be bad if I was both? because she really is one of those artists that manages to straddle the two worlds, probably in the manner I would say of like a Lady Gaga or maybe a Björk, or in her own country, people like Kyari Pamyu Pamyu. And certainly in her ability to shapeshift into totally different sort of imagery and to reference different pop aesthetics and that sort of thing. She's probably pretty close to somebody like a Madonna or even a David Bowie, perhaps. And in the way she sings, she's got this sort of slight warble in the end of her voice, in a vibrato that to me is somewhat reminiscent of something like Johnny Rotten. And I think you can also see that sense of a real punk sensibility about what she does. And like most great artists, she's able to create this exquisite mishmash of all these disparate elements into something that's new and beautiful and truly its own. From the early 80s, she managed to work both within the system and without the system to be an actress and a singer and a creator and destroyer of aesthetic worlds, I would say. Strangely enough, though, in her early career in Japan, she was mostly known for being on toilet commercials. She was kind of like the face at one stage of the toilet company Toto, who had created the, I guess, questionably revolutionary toilet innovation, the washlet, which is this little spout that comes out and sprays out water to wash your bum. An electronic version of a bidet, I suppose. And she was quite striking in the videos, and pretty much every TV talk show she would go on, the host would always reference in one way or another the tagline from the ad, which was "Oshiri datte or aratte hoshi." So, you know, even your bum wants to be washed. So such are the ignominies of an up-and-coming young artist, I suppose. Although the thrust of the ad was kind of convincing in what it was saying. You know, if you had crap all over your hands, you wouldn't just get a piece of paper and wipe it off. You'd probably wash them, so why not the same with your bum? In television appearances of the time when she's singing, she's often making herself up to look like this girl kind of idol person, but you kind of get the sense that she's doing it with a glint in her eye. And she's always flying just north of that sort of all-out parody border and just south of something that's actual true sincerity. But you kind of got the sense that the Japanese public at the time maybe didn't quite cotton on, or didn't quite know how to deal with her or categorize her. Musically, she got her start at the ultra-hip Nylon 100% cafe in Tokyo, and she got seen by another musician called Ueno when she was singing a 1940s kind of imperial Japanese song called Soushu Yakkyoku, and it was from the film called Shina no Yoru, which is China Nights. So we're talking 1940 war era Japan. So it's not the sort of song that you would usually expect a young up-and-coming sort of hipster artist to be cutting their teeth on. So it got Ueno's attention, and they started a band called Guernica, who went on to do music sort of in that same style, that sort of harking back to that sort of pre-war era popular music of Japan, and they looked quite striking. They looked very straight-laced entertainers from the time, but very glib and very not a lot of expression, kind of dark in a way. Anyway, but they did it in a sort of futuristic way. So they had like electronic elements, and it was very much tongue-in-cheek. And that sort of aesthetic has gone on to be one element in a lot of Togawa's work throughout her career, I suppose, a sort of nostalgic futurism. So Suki Suki Daisuki is the title track from her second album that she's put out totally under her own name, Jun Togawa. But if you count the Guernica records and Yapuz, she's also part of this band, the Yapuz. It's the fifth fifth album she put out, and there's a bit of there's not a firm line between Jun Togawa and Yapuz. So sometimes it's Jun Togawa and Yapuz, or sometimes it's just Yapuz, and sometimes it's Jun Togawa. Anyway, this is the second album totally under her own name, and the song has become probably her most iconic song globally or worldwide, partly because it became a meme, sort of some more than 30 years after it was originally released, where a bunch of different people put different animations to it, or images of cute chibi kind of characters, or something somewhere between cute and grotesque, to go with the concept of what's called yandere. So the song is kind of an example of what's called yandere, which is a concept that's most prevalently in anime, and it's a portmanteau, the word of yandere, which means sick or to suffer, and dere means to flirt or to fawn over someone, or to be struck with love with somebody. But it's got, literally, I guess it's close to our word lovesick, but the nuances of it are quite different. So it's got a lot darker connotations, of almost sort of stalkerish connotations of being a bit violent or sadistic or obsessed in a bit of a sick kind of way. So the term yandere didn't exist at the time that Jun Togawa was working, but I guess you could probably say that this sort of the imagery in the song of someone that's so obsessed with someone that they're becoming quite violent, and they want the other person to be violent towards them, maybe had a part in the creation of this concept of yandere in wider Japanese culture, and especially in anime. And the whole concept is most clearly crystallized in the iconic line of the chorus of the song, where it's Suki Suki Daisuki, and it's all nice. And then the last line is 愛してるって言わなきゃ殺す. So, you better tell me that you love me or I'm going to kill you. So that's, pretty much a pure crystallization of that concept of yandere. And I think probably Stephen King and Annie Wilkes probably couldn't have said it better in their iconic book/movie Misery. Although if Annie Wilkes had been in Japan, she probably would have been a lot cuter. And a lot of the imagery in all of the lyrics of the song is very visceral and raw and quite violent. So, for example, the pre-chorus section is kiss me, nagaru you ni kuchibiru ni chi ga nijumu hodo, hold me, abara ga oto o tatete oreru hodo, which translates as like, kiss me like you're hitting me till the blood comes running from my lips, and then hold me till my rib cage makes the sound of bone as it breaks. But at the same time as being raw and visceral, it's also quite intellectual and cerebral in a lot of the lines that it's using. So for example, lines like honno de kasaneru joji, mugen jigoku, anti nihilism no chokkan ninshiki wa. So like an instinctual affair over and over in a hell endless, a direct premonition of anti-nihilism. So anti-nihilism isn't the sort of term that you would expect to find in any pop song, either in the West or in Japan, I would say. But it was probably the next line that gave me the most trouble to actually translate. Senzai teki yojisei bouryoku heki o yuhatsu, which is quite a bizarre and potentially very problematic, kind of worrying line within the song. I've translated it as awakens a latent devious fixation, but that's probably a pretty generous or generalized, somewhat sanitized translation of the line. There's a couple of sort of interpretations of the line that you could take, depending on where you put the word see where you attach it to. So you can attach it to yoji. So yoji means infant. So yoji se would be infantile, but it's not a very common word to use. Or you could attach it to the next word, boryoku. So se boryoku, in which case it means sexual violence or sexual assault. So if you attach the se to yoji, you can get a translation that's something like invites a latent, infantile, violent propensity, which is still pretty weird, but not as problematic as if you attach the se to the word boryoku to get sexual violence, because then you probably have to translate it as something a bit more like awakens a latent pedophilic urge, sexual violence towards an infant. I'm not sure there's much else you can call that other than pedophilia. And it seems like a lot of Japanese people are confused about this line as well. I came across something on Yahoo Questions when somebody had posted what does this line in this song mean, and somebody else had posted with a quote from Jun Togawa's book. She says, own words, それと言葉で言う幼児性ね。最近は全然暴力振るいませんけど、幼児的な暴力癖があるんじゃないかという気がするので、意識の上では、謙虚にしなきゃなと思いますよ。So if you translate that, it's like, so the word is infantile. I haven't exhibited any violence at all of late, she says, but I feel like I must have some kind of infantile propensity towards violence within me. So I think I should keep a sense of modesty at the front of my mind. So in a lot of ways, that's a relief. So she's saying it's not, it's not seibōryoku, it's not about sexual violence per se, although, if you look at the overall context of the song, there's obviously, it is kind of about the connection between violence and sexuality, which makes me think of, things like the Jane's Addiction song where Perry Farrell is saying sex is violent. So she's not the only one to sort of think about that connection, but it's not directly, you don't have to translate it as pedophilic. So that was a relief for me. That being said, Jun Togawa doesn't seem to have a particular problem with really broaching taboo subjects in a song. So in her debut album, Tama Hime-sama, so the whole concept of the album, or the song Tama Hime-sama, is about menstruation and the mystery of menstruation. And so she's not afraid to broach controversial topics. And in the intro video to the Suki Suki Daisuki, she's holding a cat and looking all cute, but talking about how the last album was about women's periods, and this time it's about the concept of eros. So I think all of these things do kind of prove that she isn't just, Jun Togawa isn't just an idol or an artist, but she really is a combination of the two. All right. Hope you've enjoyed. If this is of interest, please subscribe. We do translations on here, and including songs and deep dives into songs. And see you next time. Thank you.